Attention, Braves Nation. Tell me the truth. Did you really stick with the team when the ship was sinking? Or were you just waiting for the next chop-on party? The past year was a stain, a mistake that should never have happened to the franchise that dominates the National League East Division. We are talking about a team that historically enters the season not to compete, but to win the NL East and go straight to the World Series. And what did we have in 2025? We had a dismal 76-86 record, the first time finishing sub-$500 since 2017. We missed the playoffs 7 games out of contention. That is unacceptable, period. The NL East dynasty is not a right. It is an obligation that was ignored, and the only answer to this grotesque failure is a complete clean-out. A reconstruction, a declaration of war. The Atlanta Braves front office has answered the call of urgency. Brian Snitker's retirement last month, Rick Kranitz and others dismissed, and the message was clear: start from scratch. And that is exactly what is happening in the franchise's command center. Fans, a new era, the Walt Weiss era, is being cemented right now. And he did not come to play games. He came to dominate. Walt Weiss was promoted from bullpen coach, a role he held since 2018, and the first thing he did was declare that there would be no room for complacency. He and the legendary Eddie Perez, who remains as a major league coach, are the only remnants of the 2021 World Series champion coaching staff. For the first time in years, the Atlanta Braves coaching room is unrecognizable, with 8 new faces on the staff. 8 new coaches are arriving to change everything, and that is pure urgency. We need to dive into the details because the responsibility of ensuring that our chop-on offense returns to being the most feared run-scoring machine in MLB rests in whose hands? Tim Hires remains the hitting coach. That's a relief, but he will have Darnell Coles as an assistant hitting coach. And on the field, the positional change is strategic. Tony Mansolino, who was expected at third base, takes on the vital role of bench coach, and who goes to third base, the position from which running and risk are commanded. Tommy Watkins, coming from the Twins organization. On the mound, confidence will be placed in Jeremy Hefner as the new pitching coach, and Antoine Richardson takes first base, both coming from the rival Mets, an audacious move. The bullpen, which will no longer have Weiss, will be in the hands of Dustin Garneau and J.P. Martinez. This is not just a name swap, it is a restructuring of the clubhouse DNA. And what does all this mean for the roster? Marcell Ozuna and Raisel Iglesias are free agents and are no longer in the picture. Pierce Johnson and Tyler Kinley had their options declined, but Chris Sale and Ozzie Albies stay, renewed and ready to lead. The promise is a payroll increase this offseason, giving the new coaching staff the resources to buy victory. The Weiss era has begun. The question remains, does this new coaching staff have what it takes to reclaim NL East hegemony and lead us back to the top of baseball in 2026? The details are here, and the pressure is maximum. The new era for the Atlanta Braves is not a whisper. It is a war cry. It is the sound of the chop-on returning in full force, louder and more urgent than ever. After that 76-86 season finish, the first sub-500 finish and missing the playoffs since 2017, the front office knew it needed a shock, a complete revolution, and that is exactly what they delivered. Brian Snitker retired. The transition was abrupt, and now, with the full coaching staff defined, the Walt Weiss era truly begins, and there is no room for errors or hesitation. Weiss, our former bench coach and one of the few remnants of that legendary 2021 World Series champion staff, takes command with a clear mission and no margin for doubt: restore the hegemony of the National League East. He has no time for slow adjustments. The mandate is to win immediately. The new coaching structure is almost unrecognizable. With 10 coaches in total and 8 of them being new faces, it is a clear sign that the culture needed shaking up and that new voices were indispensable after the disappointing performance that kept us out of the postseason. But not everything is new, and continuity is strategic. Tim Hires remains our hitting coach for his second season, which is vital to keep the team's offensive core focused and productive. Our offense must be the driving force, and Hires has the responsibility to ensure that the chop on is synonymous with power at the plate. Alongside him, the legend Eddie Perez, who has been on the coaching staff since the Bobby Cox era, continues as a major league coach, serving as an anchor of tradition and deep knowledge of the franchise, a crucial link between the victorious past and the demanded, triumphant future. The changes, however, are profound and start with the second-in-command, Tony Mansolino, who was initially hired to be the third base coach, had an immediate ascent and takes on the role of bench coach, Weiss's former position. This move is an indication that the organization sees in Mansolino the ability to be the strategic right-hand man to the new manager, someone who can manage the clubhouse and assist in urgent in-game decision-making. For third base, a position of such responsibility in offensive and defensive strategy, arrives Tommy Watkins, coming from the Twins organization, bringing a fresh and different external perspective that could be the difference maker in base running. The pitching staff, which needs a drastic overhaul for us to return to the elite, received a total leadership reform. Rick Kranitz was dismissed, and in his place, Jeremy Hefner takes over as pitching coach, joining the team directly from our division rival, the Mets, as does Antoine Richardson, the new first base coach. Bringing talent from a rival organization is an aggressive and intelligent move, as they know the weaknesses of the East and the game mentality we need to overcome. Hefner will have the challenge of maximizing the potential of a roster that includes the recently renewed Chris Sale and the obligation to bring consistency to the bullpen, which will now be commanded by Dustin Garneau as relief pitching coach and J.P. Martinez as Major League bullpen coach. Precision and confidence in crucial moments in the 8th and 9th innings must return to being our trademark. The coaching staff is complemented by Darnell Coles, who will be the assistant hitting coach, working alongside Hires to ensure the offensive machine runs flawlessly, and Tony Diaz, who joins as the major league coach. It is a team with new perspectives, with the exception of Weiss and Perez, who are the only remaining members of that 2021 championship group, which shows the scale of the restart. This complete reform is the direct answer to the failed 76-86 season, and the urgency is palpable. In addition to the changes in the coaching staff, the roster will also undergo important adjustments. Marcell Ozuna and Raisel Iglesias are unrestricted free agents, and their departure opens up space, as do the declined options for Pierce Johnson and Tyler Kinley. However, the organization ensured the permanence of essential names like Ozzie Albies and Chris Sale, renewing their contracts and indicating the path forward. With the expectation of a payroll increase this offseason, the new coaching staff led by Walt Weiss has what it needs: a clear mandate to win immediately, new voices and new resources to work with. The chop-on demands glory, and 2026 must be the year of the comeback and the conquest of the NL East. The time for excuses is over, the new era has begun, and victory is the only acceptable result. The new era of the Atlanta Braves is not just a promise, it is a declaration of war. After a 76-86 season, something simply unacceptable for an organization with our history and talent, the Atlanta front office did what was necessary: a complete clean-out to realign the path. The retirement of Brian Snitker, our beloved 2021 World Series champion manager, opened the door for baseball to be played again with our intensity, and that is exactly what Walt Weiss's arrival as manager represents. The 2026 coaching staff is set, and what we see is a 10-man team with 8 new faces, a clear sign that management has not only turned the page, but torn up the old strategy book. This revolution is a direct mandate to return to dominating the National League East. The expectation is for immediate victory, for the chop-on to resonate in the playoffs again, because missing out is an outrage we will not accept anymore, especially after the first sub-500 campaign and playoff absence since 2017. This is not the Braves. The permanence of only 2 names is extremely calculated and full of symbolism. Tim Hires, retained as hitting coach, is the guarantee that the offensive machine, our trademark, and the engine of our recent success will have continuity. Our strength at the plate is what defines us, and retaining hires, even with the change in management, attests to the confidence in his work to maximize the potential of our sluggers. And the other pillar, the name that connects us to the Hall of Fame golden era of Bobby Cox, is the legendary Eddie Perez. He remains as a major league coach, a mentor, and a guardian of the winning culture expected in Atlanta. The coaching shuffle gives us the key pieces for the new philosophy of play. The most interesting and strategic hiring is that of Tony Mansolino. Initially slotted to be the third base coach, he now takes on the crucial role of bench coach, Weiss's former position. The bench coach is the right-hand man. The tactical strategist for the manager Mansolino will be responsible for executing Weiss's vision on the field, managing the bullpen, and making real-time matchup decisions, a role that requires deep league knowledge and authority in the clubhouse. With Mansolino moving up, Tommy Watkins, coming from the Twins organization, takes third base, bringing a new perspective to base running strategy. On the pitching side, the change is more than necessary. Rick Kranitz was dismissed, and now we have Jeremy Hefner, who arrives from the Mets as the new pitching coach, coming from the Mets, which adds an extra flavor of rivalry and shows that the front office sought talent. Where it was available, Hefner has the immediate mission of restoring the excellence of our pitching staff, both starters and our relief corps, which faltered at many moments last season. The hiring of Dustin Garneau as relief pitching coach and J.P. Martinez as Major League bullpen coach reinforces the focus on restructuring this vital department. A good bullpen is what turns a contender into a World Series champion. The bullpen must return to being a fortress, not a weak spot. Rounding out the technical staff, we have Darnell Coles as assistant hitting coach and Antoine Richardson, also formerly of the Mets, as first base coach, to help improve our running game, something we urgently need to refine to increase pressure on opponents. Tony Diaz completes the group as Major League coach. It is a team with new perspectives, with the exception of Weiss and Perez, the only members remaining from that 2021 champion group, which shows the scale of the restart. This complete overhaul is the direct response to the failed 76-86 season, and the urgency is palpable. The scenario on the main roster complements the urgency of the new coaching staff. Our payroll is expected to increase, and that is music to every fan's ears. Weiss and his new staff will have more resources to work with, although important players like Marcell Ozuna and Raisel Iglesias are unrestricted free agents, leaving power and closer gaps. The contract renewals of Chris Sale and Ozzie Albies give us a solid spine, a base of elite talent to start the reconstruction. Declining the options for Pierce Johnson and Tyler Kinley shows that the front office is unwilling to pay for underperformance. The message is clear: the Braves are willing to spend and willing to part with anyone who is not part of the domination plan. The Walt Weiss era is not a long-term project. It is a demand for excellence and wins starting opening day. The new coaching staff, full of new faces and with a mandate of urgency, is ready to use this payroll increase and the talent of our core to bring the division title back to Atlanta. Our strength is in the offense, in our chop on, and this new team must ensure that the power of our bat is relentless and that our pitching is feared once again. Baseball is back, and the only thing we expect is victory. 7 more losses than wins does not represent the history of the Atlanta Braves, and it is crucial to emphasize that Anthopoulos' goal, by bringing aggressive names into the offseason, is to reclaim absolute dominance of the NL East. This division is ours by right, and the strength of our attack, our legendary chop-on, is being fortified for 2026. The frustration of 2025 with a 4th-place finish should only serve as gasoline for the roar of our offense to return even more potent. It is time to show the rest of Major League Baseball that the path to the World Series inevitably runs through Atlanta and the superiority of our hitters. The future of the division will be decided with the lineup that takes the field, and the only mentality here is victory. Thank you, brave warrior, for following this urgent analysis. If you also expect the title back in Atlanta, subscribe to the channel now, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates, and leave your chop on in the comments, telling us what you thought of the front office's bold moves this offseason. What do we need to dominate the NL East again? Your opinion is worth the title.